Hello everyone. We are Group 11 and we are assigned to report the SDG 11, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities, or also known as Make Cities and Human Settlements Inclusive, Safe, Resilient, and Sustainable. The standard of living in cities is closely related to how cities use and manage the natural resources at their disposal. Up until now, the trend toward urbanization has been accompanied by rising environmental stress and faster demand for fundamental services, infrastructure, employment, land, and affordable housing, notably the roughly 1 billion urban poor who reside in informal settlements. Cities are particularly susceptible to the effects of climate change and natural catastrophes because of the great concentration of people, infrastructure, housing, and economic activity they have. Developing urban resilience is essential to preventing losses in terms of people, society, and money, while enhancing the sustainability of urbanization process is required to save the environment, reducing disaster risk, and combat climate change. Resource-efficient cities offer more chances for consumer choice and sustainable lifestyle while combining higher production and innovation with lower costs and fewer negative environmental effects. The goal of SDG 11 is to revitalize and design cities and other human settlements so that everyone has access to basic services, electricity, housing, transportation, and green public spaces while minimizing resources use and environmental effect. And in our overview, there are a number of countries with local disaster risk reduction strategies nearly doubled between 2015 and 2021, from 51 to 98 countries. Leaving no one behind will require an intensified focus on 1 billion slum dwellers. And as cities grow, municipal solid waste problems mount, and globally, municipal solid waste there are only 82% which is collected and 55% managed in controlled facilities as of 2022. 99% of the world's urban population breathe polluted air, and 1%, which is 1% of the world's population in urban places, is the only one who are breathing non-polluted air. And that is according to New World Health Organizations, according to the air quality guidelines. And in sub-Saharan Africa, less than one-third of the city dwellers have convenient access to transportation. So that is the overview of the SDG 11, which is the Sustainable Cities and Communities, or Make Cities and Human Settlements Inclusive, Safe, Resilient, and Sustainable. And for the succeeding slides, it will be reported by my group mates. And that's for me. Thank you.
The targets. Everyone can help to make sure that we meet the global goals. These 10 targets to use to create action to make cities and communities sustainable. Target 11.1. Safe and affordable housing. By 2030, ensure access for all to adequate, safe, and affordable housing and basic service and upgrade slums. Indicators of 11.1. Proportion of urban population living in a slum, informal settlements, or inadequate housing. This measures the proportion of urban population living in slum households. A slum household is defined as a group of individuals living under the same roof, lacking one or more of the following conditions like access to improved water, access to improved sanitation, sufficient living area, and durability of housing. Then, Target 11.2, by 2030, provide access to safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport system for all. Improving road safety, notably by expanding public transport and with special attention to needs of those in vulnerable situation, women, children, person with disabilities, and older person. Indicators 11.2 proportions of population that has convenient access to public transport by sex, age, and person with disabilities. Target 11.3 by 2030, enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlements, planning and management in all countries. Indicators 11.3.1 Ratio of land consumption rate to population growth rate. 11.3.1 Ratio of land consumption rate to population growth rate. And 11.3.2 Proportion of cities with a direct participation, structure of civil society in urban planning and management that operate regularly and democratically. 11.3.1 is to enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlements. And indicators of 11.3.2 is to enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlements, planning, and management in all countries. We need to prioritize inclusive and sustainable urbanization to create human settlements that are environmentally sustainable, socially inclusive, economically viable, and culturally vibrant. To achieve this goal, we must prioritize participatory and integrated planning and management, invest in capacity building, and align our efforts with the broader goals of sustainable development. This includes considering the impact of our actions on the environment and social and economic factors.
Good day, ma'am, and I am Noe Gunus, and I will be tackling the SDG or the Sustainable Development Goal Target 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, and 11.7. So let me discuss first the 11.4, which is tackled to protect the world's cultural and natural heritage rather. Then strengthen efforts to protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage. So ang SDG or the Sustainable Development Goal will focus on how or they prevent the damage or kanang how they can prevent sa pagkawa sa atong mga natural heritage or cultural heritage. And then they are focusing on strengthen efforts to protect and safeguard the world cultural and natural heritage. So mo ni ang target sa SDG or the Sustainable Development Goal sa 11.4. Ang 11.5 naman is reduce the adverse effects of natural disaster ang iyang target. So by 2030 ang SDG is significantly reduce the number of deaths and the number of people affected and substantially decrease the direct economic losses relatively to global gross domestic product caused by disaster, including water-related disaster with a focus on protecting the poor and people in vulnerable situation. In this target 11.5, the SDG will focus to reducing the adverse effects of natural disaster. So which is very good because sa atong maobserbaran karon kay ang mga bisag ang mga natural disaster, unlike sa una kay mga hinay ra to kayo sa una, pero karon purti nang kusog na kayo, bisag kuan lang siya, low pressure area, but it can cause great damage to our society or environment. Ang SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, by 2030, significantly i-reduce nila ang number sa deaths and number of people affected, and substantially decrease the direct economic losses. Ang ila pong focus is to protect the poor and people in vulnerable area. Kay syempre ang mga pobre man jud kay walay laing maduulan, unlike sa mga dato kay nindot sila balay, so they are protected by their concrete house, unlike the poor people or the poor people, and of course they are vulnerable in every disaster that would come in their locality or in the Philippines. So that's the main goal of the 11.5 or the target 11.5. So ang 11.6 naman is tackled about the reducing the environmental impact of cities. So ang by 2030 kay ang Sustainable Development Goal, reduce the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities, including by paying special attention to air quality and municipal and other waste management. So in target 11.6, ang SDG for Sustainable Development Goal kay ila i-reduce ang environment effect or environmental impact of cities, which is very significant, because kanang mga cities karon kay bali sobra na ka huge. Ang by 2030 kuno, ang SDG is reducing the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities. So ang kani nga target 11.6 kay ila i-reduce ang impact, like kanang dili na sila kanang pataka og labay, kay naman diri nakasuwat ang other or waste management. Then they are also mention the special attention or paying special attention to air quality, so which means they are focus on kanang ipalimpyo ang air quality, ang nag-mention na mag-air quality. So ang mga factories kay murag siguro by 2030 kay ila na iwa ang mga factories na kanang maka-cause og damage sa environment. And also those murag na obserbara naman nato no, kay murag na himo-himo naman sa through innovation na murag na invento na ang electric car, which is very good because kanang it can reduce the air pollution. Kay one of the kanang cause of air pollution is the smoke from the car. So kani importante pud ni ang target 11.6 kay kanang ilaman i-prevent ang damage to the future. Kay by 2030 kay naginhahinay naman sad og ka developed ang mga technologies karon. So by 2030 ang target ani nila is makakita ang future generation og nindot na future pod. Then ang last is 11.7. It tackled about providing access to safe and inclusive green and public spaces. So this SDG or sustainable development goal rather um, tackled about providing a universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public spaces, in particular for women and children and older people, or rather say that senior citizen and person with disabilities in or by 2030. Ang inig 2030 ko no, ang Sustainable Development Goal, mag-provide sila og universal access, which means universal access ko no kay everywhere or something like that. Then an inclusive and accessible green and public spaces for those um, women and people with disabilities and older people or senior citizen. Murag i-prioritize na nila ang kani nga 11.7 target. Murag mahatagan na og priorities ang mga kaning na-mention diri like women, children, older people and person with disabilities. So as we observe in as we observe today, murag na hinahinay na og kuan kay 2023 naman taron, murag nakahinay-hinay na og kanang apply sa SDG ang kuan kay ang gi-prioritize naman ang mga senior citizens na nay mga kuan na sila'y madawat buwan-buwan, and persons with disabilities kay murag gi-prioritize gyapon sila like na sila'y kaugalingon nga kanang ila jud nga maingon na ila. So that would be all ang aho rang na report kay kani. So ang next reporter will tackle about the target 11.8. So that's all. I hope na naka-gain mo og knowledge gamay sa akong pag-discuss. Thank you.
Good day, ma'am and classmates. I am Mark Joshua German, and I am tasked to report the targets 11.8, 11.9, and 11.A. So target 11.A is all about strong national and regional development planning. Support positive economic, social, and environmental links between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas by strengthening national and regional development planning. My take on this is that by linking the urban and rural areas, it is a great way to start the development planning, since it reaches the message which is to strengthen the links, and by this, it serves as a medium to achieve 1. Positive economic growth, hence the opportunity-giving areas are able to cater to the less needy areas. 2. Is social, since it let people do engage to such planning, and lastly is environmental. Target 11.A. Support least developed countries in sustainable and resilient building. Support least developed countries including through financial and technical assistance in building sustainable and resilient buildings utilizing local materials. For me, in TikTok, we always see funny videos about infrastructures collapsing with its corresponding meme behind such. But it left me wondered that at the same time it is also sad to think that buildings that are meant to last long ended up collapsing or just destroyed. And I think of substandard materials in the first place. And by providing adequate funds and not limiting the financial and technical assistance, then this will no longer be a problem, hence also considering that Philippines is a developing country. Thank you. Target 11.9. Implement policies for inclusion, resource efficiency, and disaster risk reduction. By 2020, substantially increase the number of cities and human settlements adopting and implementing integrated policies and plans towards inclusion, resource efficiency, mitigation, and adaptation to climate change, resilience to disasters, and develop and implement. In line with the Sendai Framework to Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030, holistic disaster risk management at all levels. So as we all know, Philippines is known to be a resilient country with its Filipino people, and I looked at it in a brighter side, but I also think of being ready at everything, whether it may be natural disasters or any adversities in life, is one thing. And that is nothing way more better than being prepared that just lessen the possible risk, hence the term reduction. It is also mentioned the plans towards inclusivity, hence I will just correlate this to our differences. And by having policies like this promotes a safer place for them to feel belong in the society. In line with this resource efficiency, since consumerism is rampant nowadays, hoarding is also one thing. And by this, Target 11.9 is a great plan to do, hence just checks all the boxes of what we really need now, hence it is also timely. That's all and thank you.